Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. with Glenn Sutherland here. This week I have Erwin Szeto as my guest. Erwin, you want to give everyone a bit of an intro to yourself? I think a lot of people know who you are, but if somebody doesn't, let's let them know who you are.
I do a lot of little things. I'm not really famous for anything. Kind of like the jack of all trades and master of none. So
I'm not sure about that, but go ahead.
I've been investing since 2005 in Ontario, largely Hamilton. Been a realtor and coach since 2010. I have over 350 past clients, done about $440 million in transactions of income properties. I've owned over 40 properties myself. Again, they're all in Ontario, near where I live, generally in Hamilton area and around it. I have a podcast. I've done conferences headlined by like Grant Cardone and Jesse Itzler. Done a lot. Most people know me more from my wife, Cherry Chan. So I jokingly refer to myself as Mr. Cherry Chan. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know you got a couple of properties in the U.S. now. So
not yet.
Not yet. No, sorry.
I have 3 listings going live this week because rates are high, right? So I want to divest some of my pain in the butt, have some cash.
I like this topic. Let's completely change what we were thinking about talking about. But
sure.
Why wait? Like, what's the idea here?
I want to go with cash first. Rates are high, right?
Yeah.
I have many millions of dollars in mortgages. I'm not really looking to add more while rates are high. So I want to, and also again, like I said, I want to divest some properties that are paying my butt. Specifically, these ones are student rentals. So the financing is difficult. So for example, one of the properties, like no one would touch the financing on it. So I'm with a B lender right now for 10%.
Yikes.
So I want to divest that one for sure. Thankfully, the investment's a good one because the rents are just going absolutely nuts. It's part of a sad part of our society that I don't really want to be participating in much anymore. For example, my Hamilton student rental property, the room is now $850 per month for a room. Yeah. So the one I'm selling has 7 bedrooms, so it's a really great income. But the house is old. Again, my financing not great. I had to jump through so many hoops to get my financing, and I'm just looking for something easier. And then when I learned about how financing was way easier in the States, then I started going down the rabbit hole, and everything I've been finding in my due diligence process has just been the grass is literally greener on the other side, and I don't need to explain that to you or your listener.
No, but you brought up a really good point. It was one of the main reasons I did start in the U.S. I don't know when it was, like 7-8 years ago. Was the financing. I was buying properties in Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge, and I got to a wall where basically I call up TD, and they're like, "You're done. We're not giving you anymore." And I called Scotia, I called Royal, I call all the A-list lenders. They all say no. Now I start talking to the credit unions.
Yeah, same. They all turn me down.
Yeah, they're all turning me down. I'm like, I'm not ready to be done. So I'm like, well, what do I change? And
not just you're done. The hoops you had to jump through, the documentation, like all your corporations, they give everything. You have to open up your Komodo and give the credit unions everything, and they still said no.
Well, with me, I was like, well, maybe I just have to change strategies instead of doing these like buy and holds. Maybe I have to like start doing flips so that I'm in and out of projects, so that I only have a certain amount of loans at the same time. But honestly, that's one of the big. There's a lot of reasons to go to the U.S., but like that was one of the reasons that did push me. And off the start, I didn't have financing figured out. I didn't have all this stuff figured out that I've figured out over the years. Did it the hardest way, did it my own way, and. But I had to use cash off the start because I didn't know how to do it, right? And I'm like, what? People can do it. I'm Googling online, people can do it. I'll figure it out. We'll redo a refinance once I bought this property, the property manager to do like, some small things, really light off the start, right? And I've built from there. So anyway, I sort of went on what I'm doing is kind of a tangent there, but you were saying like, rent rates were going up really high, right? For
Specifically student rentals,
student rental rates.
not the other stuff.
Yeah. Interest rates are
Like,
going up too, right?
yeah,
Like for these mortgages and
yeah.
everything else. So you say you're
Oh,
divesting.
just to add to that though,
What?
I have some properties under rent control as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be another $600 annually, and my insurance is all up, like $500 a house.
Yeah.
Property taxes are going up, another $500 a house. What else am I missing? Yeah, mortgage, taxes, insurance. Yeah, I think we got them all now, plus rental licensing. So my costs have all gone up, about 500 each. So that's another $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right. That I can't just increase my rents.
No. So when you
Right.
said you're divesting, are you selling these or what do you do?
Yeah, I'm selling them because again, like just kind of like your own journey. I want to go with some cash because again, rates are high, and I've built a lot of equity. Again, I've been investing since '05,
Yeah.
so I've built a lot of equity. Now I want to add some more cash flow to my portfolio.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too with a lot of people. I always say like, people who are like, oh, I make so much money on my rentals, right? And I go,
Mm-hmm.
well, when did you buy them? And then they're like, oh, 15 years ago or 10 years
Yeah.
ago. And then you
Yeah.
go, what's your return on equity? Because like
Yeah.
at those prices, I'm like, you got a ton of equity that you're not earning any money on, right? Like,
Yeah.
like why don't you
Yeah.
turn that into some cash flow, right?
That's me, and that's what happens when you run out of room for financing.
Yeah.
Right. It's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful journey, of course.
Oh yeah.
I was buying in the under $200,000 for houses back then, and now I'm selling everything for like 700,000-800,000.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And
So,
I'm
but
sure
again, like,
your realtor fees are pretty good too, as you're the realtor.
thankfully, I know a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But I have none of that in the States, which is why I'm choosing to partner for that side.
Yeah. So if I'm just going to go through your game plan, so you're waiting to sell a few, and then you're planning on going to the States, or what's the game plan here?
Yeah, because again, I don't want more. I already have a lot of mortgages. My game plan is well, I'm actually literally flying on Sunday to Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So just to do my due diligence as well on specific areas I'm looking at investing.
Yeah.
And I think your listener probably knows, like if you just can do some basic comparisons of America versus Canada, like Canada, we have, based on my research, I think we only have two major manufacturing plants being built in all of Canada. One in Windsor, one in St. Thomas. So that's about 7,000 jobs, right? The state of Texas,
battery ones, or what is the
yeah, one DV, one's cars, but there'll be EV cars.
Yeah.
And then the state of Texas, just microchip manufacturing, just the state of Texas alone, which is about the same size as Canada, population-wise, a little actually smaller, but they alone have 8,000 microchip manufacturing jobs. So automotive, great. Yeah, I'm actually really worried about the automotive sector. I've been worried about automotive sector forever, and like you're from the Waterloo area. I'm especially worried for all of Canada, especially Ontario, where most of the automotive is. But anyways, I digress. Like I'm going to Austin because just outside Austin, there's a Samsung manufacturing plant. Hasn't opened yet. So they've broken ground. The steel frames are already up and everything. $17 billion project. It's going to bring 2,000 jobs. I'm going to a town where they are. This is Taylor, Texas. The population is only 17,000. So what's going to happen to a real estate market in town that only has population of 17,000 and they add at least 2,000 people? And they're all going to be paid great.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
so
I feel like
that's where I'm
the same
targeting.
story as Alabama, right? Like I started off investing in northern Alabama.
Yeah.
And they built a new Toyota factory and a new Mazda factory. And basically they were copying Dallas, right? Because that's what Dallas did. They gave all this free land around the city for big companies to come in, right?
Yeah.
So they did the same thing. And Huntsville went.
You have a Hyundai too, don't you? Like Hyundai makes tons of their models in Alabama as well.
I think they're more Birmingham area. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay.
But they might be anyway. But it exploded. And all the houses, I used to buy houses for 40 grand. Believe it or not, 40 grand in 35810. And
can't even build. I'm rolling my eyes because you can't even build it for that.
You can buy a lot in Ontario for that.
You can't even buy a parking spot in Toronto for that. Sorry.
But now they're without doing any works to some of them. Like I bought them because they were my first properties, turnkey. But we got appreciation here too. But it happens whenever big companies come in, right? Same thing's happening in Columbus. Like big things are happening in certain spots of the U.S. And when high-paying people, professionals, like travel across the U.S. to go to that, it boosts the whole market. They take the good neighborhoods or the good neighborhoods, make them great, and make them, a B to a B plus, and they're gonna bring the money in and start fixing up certain spots, right?
And they can afford lots of rent, right?
Yeah.
And you can afford to raise your rents through time because it's very affordable rent.
Yeah.
Right. Versus we don't have that here in the Golden Horseshoe of Ontario. How do you raise rents? Like people's incomes aren't going up. How far can rents go?
Right.
So,
because it like honestly, it should be dictated by the income of the city, right? Like what can people afford, right? Because if it's too high, they're just gonna have tenant turnover and they keep moving around and it's not gonna work, right? Because it's not at least Texas for sure is not a rent controlled state at all.
and
So
no state tax.
And no state tax.
And they're right to work states. Alabama, Texas, all right to work states. So how is Ontario supposed to compete with these states when they have so many advantages? Like let's pick on Cambridge. Like Cambridge's the average home price is 750,000. How are you supposed to hire employees when that's what they have to pay for a house versus like Dallas, average price is under 300,000 US.
Yeah.
Right. So,
hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
So from a business perspective, where would you rather put your manufacturing plant?
Yeah. You might be able to afford to pay them less money even, right? Depending, right? Because it goes with the housing, right? It lines up the same way. Yeah. No.
Yeah. But again, like my plan is also to diversify because America's big and you never know. Like, you never know who's going to make it, who's not. Like, for example, we've seen like Michigan fall apart, right? When the automotive industry went away.
Yep.
Right. So then my plan is to diversify. So I'll be buying in like 4 or 5 different cities and states in order to properly diversify. But my strategy is gonna be long-term rental though, because I'm at a stage in my life that I want things easy. My kids are at an age that they're really fun, so yeah, I'm trying to keep it easy. That's why I'm going through an asset manager to build my portfolio and manage it for me.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind me asking, you mentioned San Antonio. Do you know what the other markets you're thinking of? Because I know, let's honestly, when in my coaching program, the number one question is like, where should I buy it? Like,
yeah,
that's the biggest one.
Early, like, I've done a whole long conversations with ChatGPT.
But ChatGPT, isn't their info like a year old or 2 years old or something?
I'm on the new version, so
sorry.
But my version's not that old. It's less than 12 months.
Yeah.
But again, I just needed to at least filter for me in my top 10 cities.
Yeah. Right.
And, like you can't get like census data that's like completely up to date anyway. So it's okay. But it keeps like I ask it from different perspectives, like Peter Zeihan, from Warren Buffett's perspective, from Ray Dalio's perspective, from Don Campbell's perspective. Give me your top 10 based on their investment criteria. Give me your top 10. And the names keep coming up, like Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Atlanta, Nashville, right? Phoenix, right? All names you've heard of.
Yeah.
Several places in Columbus, like the state capital of Columbus, which is
Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is the capital of Ohio because they're getting Intel plant as well, 4,000 jobs. So again, names keep coming up, and then it's more about I've been an investor long enough. I know what a deal looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm generally looking at like the 150 range to 300,000 range. I'm looking for a little more turnkey than you are. And then my rents are somewhere around like 1,400 to like 2,500.
Yeah.
And these are single family, so it's all plus utilities. So again, I'm looking for more boring on the boring side. because I don't want this to consume my life. I have other things. This is like my equivalent of like my dividend paying portfolio. I want it to be like set it, forget it, not really worry about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I want all the check marks in my favor, because the more check marks you have in terms of like this deal makes sense, the more likely it's going to be a good one, right? So like Austin, Texas, for my research is, for example, is maybe one of the best places to invest in possibly the world, right? Based on the number of economic fundamentals there they have, right? Like Tesla's there, SpaceX is there, Samsung is investing $40 billion just in and around Austin, right? They already have tons of tech jobs, like Dell's there, Joe Rogan's there.
You go hang out, yeah.
So again, like I have all these check marks, right, for good reasons to invest there. So yeah, I'm gonna have to pay a bit more, but I know, my investment's well defended, right? Like just like Warren Buffett, like don't lose money, right? Key is don't lose money. But I with all these things in my favor, how my rents and prices not go up, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very well researched bet in my opinion.
It makes a lot of sense, and boring is good, right? Like you mentioned, I do a lot of like heavy renos, and
Yeah.
I
You're
reno
the other
everything.
side. You're the other side, yeah.
But it is like it is a full-time job to do that, right? And
No, absolutely.
a lot of people aren't
appreciate
looking
that.
for that. They're not, they're not looking to do this and consume their life. And you talk to investors after 5 because they that's when they're done work, and you work all day with the teams down there, and it's exhausting. It's a lot. I think people downplay that. They think it's you just turn it over to somebody else, and you can't.
You can't trust anybody. You can't.
No.
Like what you're doing is hard too, because you're managing it virtually. Like I advise my clients, you have a renovation project, you should be there once a week to check on it.
Yeah.
Like you, or your property manager at least, like someone who's not attached to the project, like the general contractor. Like someone third party has to check on it every week, right? So yeah.
Because everybody, and it's not even an American thing, but like if you left a contractor alone here in like Waterloo, same sort of thing. If you're not checking on them, no one's checking on them. Some weeks they don't show up and they go work on something else, right? Your timelines slip. Anyway, there's a ton of reasons to do it the passive way, and there's reasons to do it the active way. But like if you want, you're at a stage in your life where you're looking for, it's a different kind of investment, right? You're like you're trying to, but you're also diversifying. Like so you're changing your cash flow from Canadian to American. Is there anything about the currency that you're thinking of? Like whenever I had Quentin on, he was looking for diversification of currency when he was talking about this. And he was talking about, investing in Florida because he wanted to get American money, just, kind of hedge the Canadian dollar. Because, sometimes the Canadians doing better, sometimes the Americans doing better. He likes to travel. I'm sure there's an element of that in there too, right?
I think the bigger part of just earning some income in US dollars is, yes, it's wonderful diversification. But this is also an investment in the world's superpower economy, right? Like China has all sorts of issues to ever surpass them. Even if China surpasses the Americans, America is still an incredible world superpower, right? That's why Warren Buffett's made so much money. That's why he always invests in America, right? And if anyone does about an hour research about our economy versus theirs, like just simply, a Canadian on average does 70% of the same GDP per capita as an American. Each Canadian is only 70% as productive as an American, right? Really? Yeah, and we have way more debt than the Americans on a provincial, federal, and consumer level, right? The Americans have had their correction in 2007 to 2010, right? Like they're had their financial crisis, right? We never have, right? So when you want to evaluate risks, and also the size and power of that economy, like the Americans are looking to like so they're trying to double their manufacturing economy within 5 years, right? What are we doing in terms of growth and economy? So where should you make your bets in terms of investment? So again, this is just an educated investment / bet.
I think Canada is bringing in a lot of immigrants. That's where we're growing.
That's how we do it. But again, but still per person, we are less productive than an American, right? And that's not a fault to who we are. It's just the Americans are so much bigger they can invest, right?
Huh.
They make bigger investments because they have the economies of scale, and they have so many things that are in their favor, like their demographics, their housing affordability. So they don't need to they don't need to bring in as many immigrants because housing's still affordable. So they can still all have kids.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like, everyone I know is worries about how their kid's going to afford a home in around the Golden Horseshoe. Right. And future after that. But yeah, I digress. I do want to go into like more my planned investment model.
Yeah, let's do it.
If that's okay.
I went on a wicked tangent right off the start.
Because I think I find most Canadians, their first barrier is it's far, right? So, right, like UVS very far. Like I'm generally focusing on the Sunbelt states, so that's a 4-hour flight. So I want to elaborate on that. I'm going to an asset manager. So I think first of all, people need to understand what an asset manager is. Yeah. Like yourself in your business, you're very much an asset manager. I attempt to be a form of an asset manager to my clients. What that is it's my job to source and underwrite deals for my clients, right? I bring them their property manager. Like I'm trying to basically give them a franchise, right? Yeah. You get all my contacts. You get also my relationships, my equity in those relationships, because often I am the number one referrer of those members of your power team. Yep. Lawyer, accountant, property manager, fence guy, all those sorts of things, insurance, all those sorts of things. I advise my clients when it's time to refinance, to acquire more property, when it's time to divest something, right? When they can get more rents, right? Now imagine this on a scale but I'm only one person, my team's only like 5 people. I do the best I can, and also I'm trying to do this in Ontario, where like nothing's in our favor. We got rent control, or we have massive inflation and housing costs, right? Hence going to the south. So then. But again, I still have these issues. Like I have a lot of trust issues. I've seen lots of people lose money, right? But then I found this asset manager called Share. But they're on a large scale. Like for example, the chief investment officer is ex-Starlight Investments. Starlight Investments is the largest apartment building owner in all of Canada, and Dimitri's his name is, and he was one that was in charge of acquiring and managing a 20,000 unit portfolio in the Sunbelt states. So I found people to partner with, who will do everything that I tried to do for my client, right? But way better, because they're institutional, right? So they have all the relationships with property managers, and property managers in the States are like, they have like thousands of doors, right? So they have massive economies of scale. Mm-hmm. So I can just plug into their systems, they'll source me deals and take care of everything for me. But just like REITs do, and just like you do, you charge fees, right? So I'll pay fees. I'll gladly pay fees. The beautiful part about this model, though, is that I don't have to give up any equity. The property is in my name. It's my mortgage, and I'm in control. So I do pay fees, but all REITs charge fees too. But again, I keep all the upside. Yep. I'm in control. I can always fire everyone, kick the tenant out, and sell the property, right? So in terms of again, literally the grass is literally greener on the US side in terms of all these sorts of fundamentals. The only thing that's not more favorable in the States is that because it is easier to build, it's easier to create competition for your rental properties, right? Okay. So that's really the only big downside. So you do have to be more careful on your location picking, right? I
like to think our school system's a lot better too.
That too. And so that brings up a good point. So I'm looking for properties near good schools as well. Yeah. Right. Because that's what people want. People buy and rent based on lifestyle as well. So I'm looking for lifestyle towns too. Yep. And jobs. Right. Yep. Which is why, for example, I prefer the Sunbelt states over, say, Ohio. Yeah. Because generally people want better weather. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what I would want. Like if I was going to live in the United States, where I live, and it would probably, unless you're dictated by family and friends, right? But if you're, I would pick somewhere warm.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
But even if you are far, like flights within the U.S. are cheap for Americans.
oh yeah.
So getting around is easy. Like to go from like Columbus to Phoenix is not that big a deal, and it's not that expensive,
Nope.
right?
A
And
lot
I
of
always
times I'm
always
driving down to
always make that
Detroit.
comparison.
Yeah.
Because I always make that comparison. For example, like people are like, oh, it's a 4.5 hour drive for me to Columbus, Ohio. Why don't you invest in Ohio versus like Phoenix? And I'm like, well, let's think about it. So again, Columbus is getting an Intel plant. Phoenix is getting a Taiwan Semiconductor plant. So TSMC, they manufacture for like Apple. They make microchips for like Apple. They're the biggest manufacturer of microchips for other companies, right? So if I have the skills to work in a microchip manufacturing plant in either Intel in Columbus or Phoenix, where would I choose to live? Because the prices aren't that dissimilar.
Yeah.
Right. So again, I have one more checkbox in my favor by going south, because I think more people would choose to live in Phoenix over Columbus. Right. So again, I just want all these things in my favor. But again, I'm looking at investing in like 4 or 5 different cities, which is why I'm choosing to go through an asset manager. I don't have the IQ and skill set that you do to be able to manage properties all over the country. I want to like, you know, I'll pay you a fee, you take care
But
of it.
I still have project managers. I still have property managers. You still have to have all these people. Like, there's still, you have to have managed all those people.
Yes, but my managing is going to be like checking my bank account once a month. Rent's still coming in, good. Okay, I'm gonna go back to living, right? Versus like you have probably at least weekly calls.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, like, definitely, you have to.
Yeah, and then that's just the call. Like, you know, what if you have to deal with something?
When you were just talking there, you said some stuff about control and having the ability to, well, if you didn't like somebody, and be able to fire, be able to move, be able to sell properties. Is that the reason that you chose to do, like, I'm assuming that we're talking about single family homes, to do single family homes versus like investing in like a REIT or a syndication?
It's all part of it. Because, for example, if I invest in a REIT or syndication, I have to give up profit share, right? At a minimum, you're giving up profit share. And then typical, like Starlight, for example, they take 25% of the equity, right? I'm choosing this model to directly hire an asset manager. So I get to keep 100% ownership. And it's pretty much just as passive. It's almost just as passive. I do have to get my own mortgages. But again, like I have to own my own legal entity. But that amount of work to keep the whole pie is very worth it to me. And then you raise the point as well, because I know you do duplex, fourplex as well, and I know you do some apartment buildings. But I'm choosing specifically to stay with single family because property managers won't work with you, like the big ones, the ones who have portfolios in the thousands of houses or units, right? They generally won't work with a retail investor unless you have at least 100 houses or like a couple hundred doors. I don't have that.
Yeah.
Right. Hence, I have to stay I want to, again, because my requirement is passive above all else. So I'll have to invest in the sandbox where I can be as passive as possible and keep all the upside.
I just was thinking about this too from way back at our start of our conversation. You're talking about the asset manager. What all do they do? Like, is there property management in-house, or do they manage? They're like the manager of the manager, right?
Manager of the manager. They're no different than like the big names out there, like a BlackRock, right?
Okay.
Most REITs do not have in-house property management, so they're no different. Like they negotiate all the contracts. They have all the power in the relationship. As a retail investor, I don't. So I'm kind of like the Costco member. I get the benefit from Costco's buying power. I know it's not the best, right? You can get better deals if you go hunting.
Yep.
But if I have no time, and my kind of thing about how I think of Costco is it's basically an 8 out of 10 at all times. I'm good to settle for an 8 out of 10 investment, 8 out of 10 product from Costco. So yeah, and then like you said, they're doing what I did for my client, but much better on a much larger scale. Again, national level scale. They have better relationships than I do. Because, for example, like the Canadian market is so different. The property managers here, because the tenant, it's not because the property managers are bad, or it's because they're dealing with such a difficult market, right? The tenants have all the power, rent control, can't cash flow, right? versus in the States, it's all the opposite. Like the analogy that keeps coming to my head is, if you remember like DC comics, like Superman, like Bizarro Superman,
Yep.
like everything's flipped, right? And the Americans think the same thing when they talk to us. Like, you have rent control? Your property is $1 million and the tenant cannot pay you? You have to wait 8 months to get a hearing?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if, like, I've been having to educate Canadians as well, like especially my clients. Like in America, like in the landlord-friendly states, there's no avenue for tenants to complain about you. It's either cops or they take you to court, right? Those are the only two options, really. Like here, we have this whole tribunal system that has separate set of laws. That's completely dysfunctional.
And depending on the state, some of them have public records of evictions. So you can like just, when you're screening tenants or your property manager screening tenants, they can check if these people have been evicted, so you're not inheriting someone else's problem. Whereas kind of in Ontario, sometimes you just take someone else's problem, right? Because they'd had to move out because of that.
And just to add to that, again, it's bizarro world down there. Because people always say, oh, what if the asset manager screws you? And I have to explain to them, the asset manager makes money by having more assets under management. They only make money from me if I keep buying more, if I keep growing my portfolio. So they're financially incented to see me successful. And same with the property manager, because it's different here. Because again, it's been a big education process for me. When I met with a property manager in Atlanta that had 2,800 houses under management just in Atlanta, again, like, holy cow, you have that kind of scale. That's incredible. And they're like, they look at me like, because I told them, like, here in Ontario, property managers still collect fees if there's no rent coming in. Generally, that's my experience. The property manager's like, that makes no sense, because then what's the incentive for the property manager to have the place rented?
No, but that is a good question that you just brought up. Like when you're interviewing property manager, because that does vary in the US. So I have property managers that collect no matter what, and I have ones that based on a percentage of the rent. And they're sneaky on the contracts.
Yeah, don't want that.
They put it so it's like, your property management fee is determined by the rent times 8% or 10% or whatever.
Yeah.
That's your fee. And then it says later on, this fee is collected every single month. Like so you have to like read it really close. Sometimes I'll just be like collecting it whether the place is vacant, whether it's rented. Anyway, sorry, just a little tip for people.
But because I'm going through an asset manager that does scale, they have the power in negotiation. Like, for example, again, my experience when I was in Atlanta, and like the property manager was fighting us for the bill. Like they're insisting that they pay. They're whining and dining us, right? And again, like they want our business. They're fighting for our business, not fighting for my business. They're fighting for the asset manager's business, because again, they want volume, right? So it's a really different relationship. And so again, when you in general, I've always wanted to be in a power position. Strategically, I always wanted to be in a better negotiation position than everything, right? I don't feel that way. That's not how I feel here in Ontario. The tenant has all the power, right? I'm a commercial landlord too. Like I have an office rental, and the tenant just beat the crap out of me because that's the market.
I don't have any office rentals. I thought it was different in Ontario. I thought you'd have more power
you have all the rights, but in office space, the market's incredibly soft.
There's a lot of people working from home. Is that
that's why. Yeah. So the market's incredibly soft, so you have to give more concessions. So yes, that's the other one downside I find in America in general, is that you do have to give more concessions because the vacancy rates are higher.
That's true.
Like here, it's like not like I said, like student rentals. Like last year's rent went up 40% to $700 a room. Now it's only gone up 20% to $850 a room, right? Yeah. But so in that relationship, we have all the power, but then sort of like they can always dig in and do terrible things and not pay the water bill, for example, and then we get stuck with it. Right. But again, like, so I'm tapping out. Like, again, I've been at this for a while. I've been really resilient. I've been a landlord for almost 20 years. My resiliency only has so much, right? And again, based on my research and the way I'm going to invest, I can make more money in the States in US dollars for less risk, more scalable, less headache. right? And my plan is also to never see my properties like you do. You never see your properties. Like I want to see them even
I
less.
do, but it's more it's just to go down and shake hands and be toured around, and
Yeah.
it's for, in most cases I don't have to go see them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do the same thing, but there'll probably be like some golf and some
Yeah.
guys trips wrapped around that.
Well, you have to make some business in there, right? You have to go meet some property managers and look at some property, because you got to make that flight right offable, right? So you got to do some business. But yeah.
Yeah. And I hope to not offend anyone, but I'd rather go to Phoenix. Like I'm literally going to Austin. I'd rather go to like Phoenix or Austin or Nashville over. I'll pick on Saskatoon. Where would you rather go in the winter? You want to go to central Canada to go see your properties in the winter, or would you rather go to a Sunbelt state?
Yeah, the flight's probably the same.
The distance is the same. Right? So, right, time is money. So where would you rather go? And then like, again, like all Canadians need to like think about, like, here's the thing I've been saying to people, like, oh, US dollar, blah, 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 blah. They have all this debt, blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, let's do a little quick exercise. Ask 10 people who are not Canadian, who don't live in Canada, which currency would you rather be paid in? US dollars or Canadian dollars? Can you find one out of 100 that would rather have Canadian dollars?
Yeah.
You might. You probably could.
Yeah.
Right.
This is simplicity, but yeah.
Right. Like go to Caribbean, go to America, go to Europe, go to Asia. Will you find anyone who wants Canadian dollars over US dollars?
Oh, not outside of Canada at all.
Exactly. So like, why would not everyone want more? Right? Again, grass is greener on this grass is literally greener on the other side. I don't need to tell you.
Erwin, this was a great chat. If people wanted to, maybe they got some rentals in Hamilton, they want you help them unload, or how do they track you down for all the stuff you're doing?
I'm easy to find. My name's really awkward to spell, so it's really easily to Google. But yeah, people want to check out I have my own podcast, The Truth About Real Estate Investing. Yeah. I'm on social media everywhere. If people just want to DM me, my name's Erwin Szeto. It's really easy to find. That's my Instagram. That's my Facebook. And yeah, they want to just connect, say hi. Yeah. And can you imagine because you and I know so many people in our community who just own condos.
Yeah.
Like I literally had a condo agent tell me off the record, like, 'cause he can't say this publicly. He goes, I tell my clients to be prepared for, hey Glenn, be prepared for negative cash flow $2,000 a month, and you can do this deal. And this deal makes sense. Then this deal makes sense for you. Would you put your hand up?
How many of those can you afford?
Do you even want one in your portfolio?
No.
Right? So again, everyone should at least, because for many people, that's their baseline, boring, easy investment. A condo in Vancouver or Toronto, because the tenant's easy, all sorts of things. It's a new property, all sorts of things, right? I think everyone needs to come up with a new baseline, right? A U.S. starter single-family home in a top 10 market. That should be your baseline, and then evaluate all your investments against that.
Great tip. Erwin, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. This is a great chat. I loved it.
I appreciate it, because I'm just ranting.
That's all we do. That's all I do on the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks.
That was a nice video. Bye.